Good afternoon, everybody. It is just about 1:15 in the afternoon on Sunday, July 28th. Boy, July just came and went, right? I mean, it's basically gone. There's nothing left. It took longer for July to move forward than the other months, in my opinion. I thought that July just dragged on, but I'm glad that it's coming to an end. So I have Ottervana, and I have loaded my entire FLAC library into Ottervana. It's not a whole lot of stuff here, but it's enough to start. I probably have 20, 30 albums in FLAC or MQA format. And we are going to start making a new test playlist as far as much as possible and start playing off of Ottervana and interchanging with Spotify. But this video is not about Ottervana. This video is about the Chord Mojo versus the Monolith THX AAA portable that we reviewed yesterday. And this is the summary of that 1 hour long video. And as you know, when one of my reviews drags on for an hour or more, I follow up the next day with a shorter video summarizing my findings and my impressions. And as with everything, this is just my 2 cents based upon my listening experience going back and forth A and B, and I do it for the hour long so that you can see what I am actually trying to achieve, so that I'm being as transparent as possible, that you know that I have actually listened to both devices. I'm using the same headphones, and how the parameters were set up and what songs I listen to, so that you also can later, if you wanted to, check the same songs and test it against whatever equipment that you have, and if you can find some of the things that I point out. Okay, without further ado, let's talk about the Mojo versus the portable. Which one is more betterer? Which one is the bestest of the two? That's not really the right question, because these two, both the Mojo and the portable, are vastly different devices. They're not the one and the same. They don't compete in the same tonality. They're portables, and that's where it ends. They could not be more starkly different beyond just being portable. And even with the portability, I would submit that the Monolith is probably easier to carry around than the Mojo, because the Mojo is big and heavy and thick, whereas the Monolith, it's longer, but it's thinner, and it's a little bit lighter, and it's, the UI is present, so you can actually see what you're doing. Whereas you have to guess colors and remember the colors of the rainbow and which Skittle is your favorite in order to understand what's going on with the Mojo. There's the other big difference between price. At least, so the Monolith is being sold at $280 on Monolith's website, as well as on eBay if you try to get it brand new. But you can find it for a little bit cheaper, especially in the next couple of months, I suspect, as we roll around into the Thanksgiving period and then Christmas. These prices will in fact come down, and then at that point you can probably expect this to be around $235, $250, and some used but good condition units will show up on eBay and on Amazon for probably around $200. So let's just assume about $250. Let's cut this in half, say $250 versus $500 for the Chord Mojo, so half the price of the Chord Mojo. The tonality is then the next biggest difference. So you have the price, that's the big difference, and then the next thing is the tonality. The Monolith is by no means a warm-sounding DAC amp. It does not provide a comforting sound signature at all. If there is some sort of defect in your recording, the Monolith is more likely to point that out to you in very unflattering terms than the Mojo. What the Mojo will do is blend frequencies and details and give you a much smoother presentation. Indeed, that is what the Mojo seems to be designed to do. What Chord says on their website, let's take a real quick look, is their tagline here is, your music just better. Yes, your guess is as good as mine, whatever that means. Here's their marketing shtick. Mojo is the ultimate portable DAC headphone amp that allows you to hear more from your headphones anywhere. Okay, so this is a problem. because that statement gives the impression that you're going to hear things you've never heard before from your headphone, meaning from your recording, not just from your headphone. That this player is going to bring out the details. And that is true to an extent. Sure. If you've been using your crappy USB audio device, or you've been using just the 3.5 millimeter off your laptop, your desktop, your phone, then yes, there's going to be a difference in sound signature, number one. But two, you're going to very likely hear more out of your recording from the Mojo versus those other devices that I mentioned, because those other devices have very poorly implemented sound cards, sound chips, DACs, amplifiers. So it's not particularly good to judge the Mojo with subpar technology. So let's judge it with things that are not subpar. That statement allows you to hear more from your headphones. That may be true if you're comparing with phones and PC audio. But it's not the same. It's not the same when you compare it to something like the Portable, because the Portable has significantly more detail presence than the Mojo. Now, that's not to say that the Portable all of a sudden provides more detail that the Mojo simply cannot produce, that the Mojo can't present that detail. The detail is there in the Mojo if you listen really hard for it. But because the Mojo is a warmer DAC amp, what it does is it blends some of those frequencies together, and it becomes harder to find the separation of instruments, and harder to find the separation of voices, and harder to find those details, which are present, but they're just not easily discernible. In contrast, you have the Portable. And the THX Portable has a much cleaner presentation. It doesn't seem to color the sound, at least not to the same extent as the Mojo, if it is in fact coloring the sound to some degree. It is unabashedly more accurate than the Mojo, meaning the plucking of the strings. Yesterday we listened to some songs, one of them, which was MQA recorded, you could hear the plucking of the banjo. And at one point, it goes from plucking to actual strumming and playing and riffing. On the Mojo, all of a sudden, the banjo sounded a little bit more like an acoustic guitar than it did a banjo. And when I tested that same portion of the song on the Portable, the banjo sounded like a banjo, no matter where I played the music, whether it was just picking at it or strumming and actually riffing on it. It didn't matter. The Portable presented it like a banjo, whereas the Mojo, for some reason, when the frequency started melding with some of the other stuff that was going on, it made it sound a little bit like an acoustic guitar. Now, maybe that's just my fault, and I don't know what to expect, I suppose. But I can tell you right now from my experience, there was a clear difference in tonality on just that one instrument. More to the point, when you listen to the Mojo versus the Portable and you talk about vocals, the vocals on the Portable, in my opinion, sound more clean and precise than the Mojo. You can hear some breathing in the recording through the Mojo, as the vocalist breathes in, you can hear that, whereas the Mojo, not so clearly. It blends in with everything else that's going on with the other instruments that are playing. And so really the crux of the matter is that the Mojo has less separation of instruments and vocalists than the Portable does. Now, is that separation significant? In some songs, yes. In some songs, no. It really depends on the recording that you have, the type of song that you're listening to, the way that you're playing it, the headphones that you have. There are a lot of additional factors. But all things being equal, okay, same headphone, let's say you're using an HD 660, and you have, I don't know, an MQA file. Let's say you're listening to Tidal, for God forbid, you're listening to Tidal, and you have an MQA album. All things being equal, the Mojo is going to present the same music a little bit less honestly than the Portable. And what do I mean by honestly? It's going to be a little bit more forgiving, more warm sounding, more soothing tonality. And yesterday I gave you the example of Beats, Bose, and Sony headphones. That somebody who listens on those types of headphones expects a warm, kind of intimate tonality. Now, the Mojo doesn't sound like Beats, Bose, and Sony headphones. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that individuals who hear those headphones, who like those headphones, will have an easier time transitioning to the Mojo's characteristics than they will to the Portable, because the Portable is extremely harsh with harsh recordings, whereas the Mojo is a little bit more forgiving. It sounds a bit warmer. Ultimately, which sound signature do you prefer? Do you want the more clinical sound, or do you want the more intimate, more, I wouldn't say euphoric because that's such an amorphous word, but a more closed off sound, a little bit less soundstage, more smooth tonality throughout, no peaks in the higher frequencies, a slightly bumped up bass, and a slightly bumped up midtones where the vocalists live. If that's the sound signature you're looking for, then the Mojo is very, very good for that. Now, whether it's good for $500 is still a question to be answered. But now that we're getting more and more into the comparisons, I have yet to find something that is absolutely the same as the Mojo. I have to be honest about that. Probably the thing that came pretty close was the JDS Labs Element. That sounded fairly close, but the Element itself is not a warm DAC amp. And it wasn't exactly the same like the Mojo. I don't want it to seem as if I'm saying that the Mojo has tremendous warmth to it. It doesn't. It just has a kind of a different tonality than all the other things that we've tested so far. However, and here's the big however, is it possible to EQ the Portable so that it gets close to the tonality of the Mojo? Because you have EQ options inside the Portable. They're not, in my opinion, they're not particularly fun to use because of the multiple button presses you have to navigate through. It's not particularly user-friendly, the UI, but if you want to just fine-tune and get a particular sound signature, and you're not going to mess with it after that, then perhaps this would be a way to go. So the experiment that I want to do, not today, but I will be working on this because this is going to be somewhat laborious, is to find out if I can EQ the Monolith Portable to get very close to the sound signature of the Mojo. And if that is possible, if I can take the Monolith and have it sound almost like the Mojo, then I think it's a much easier decision than as it is now. Because you may like the Mojo sound signature, the warmth and all that stuff. You may not want something that's super highly clinical like the Monolith is. But if you can have the Monolith be clinical and then set it to sound warmer, almost like the Mojo or like the Mojo, then you have 2 in 1. Whereas the Mojo can only perform one trick. Is that going to make sense? So we're going to try that. I'm going to try it off camera at some point, and once I have a chance to play with it and really fine-tune it and document what I'm doing, then I'll make a video and show what I've done and how it was achieved, if it was able to be achieved. Bottom line, is the Portable an alternative to the Mojo, a cheaper alternative to the Mojo? As it stands now, without me testing the EQ, the answer is no, it's not the same thing, which is what I said originally at the beginning of this video. But you also should be aware that if you are under the impression that the Mojo provides the cleanest sound, the best sound, the most amazing sound, you are under a misunderstanding, a misapprehension of the facts in the following way. The Mojo is not that type of player or DAC amp. It is noiseless for all practical reasons, but so is everything else that we have listened to so far. With just normal headphones, everything else we've compared the Mojo to so far has been noiseless, practically. So if you're not buying the Mojo for the best noiseless performance, then what are you buying the Mojo for? Is it the sound signature? And if that is the case, then let's see if we can find an alternative to that sound signature. And that's going to be what we're going to be. I'm sorry, I'm going to repeat myself. Going to be. That is what we will try to do in the next several weeks, is try to find something that is going to compete tonally with the Mojo at a cheaper price. And I'm hoping that the Monolith Portable will be that champion because it's cheaper and it's got more features available to it. Hopefully this has been of some help, this summary. The Mojo is still the Mojo. There's, if I could find a warm DAC amp, portable DAC amp to compare this to, I would, but it's hard to find that. That's why the Mojo has its own, distinct niche. I think modern, from what I can tell so far, from all my experimentation so far, modern portable DAC amps are going more towards the route of clarity and cleanliness and clinical presentation of the music, which gets fatiguing after a while. There's no real passion behind the music, in my opinion. And it's nice to have a change to something that does present music in a warmer sense, in a much more intimate way, kind of soothing. And, I wish there was something that would just come out and slap me in the face and say, haha, here I am. I am the cheaper alternative to the Mojo that sounds very close to the Mojo. And I haven't found that yet. Doesn't mean there isn't something out there. It's just I just don't know what it is. But we will keep trying. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Sunday. Have a great weekend. And we will talk soon. Oh, and by the way, keep putting in those jokes because the contest for the title 2-month free thing ends at midnight tonight. So if you have some jokes, you can go ahead and put them in. And by the way, you're not limited to one. You can put in more than one joke if you want. I'll just pick the funniest one. It doesn't matter to me. The funniest joke. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. And we will talk soon. Thanks a lot.